right now business owners are stuck in a predicament where they need to go socialize, they need to go meet people, but sometimes all the people they need to meet are in bars getting intoxicated, and sometimes you got to fight that urge to get intoxicated because you got to maintain productivity. You got to be high performing. I have with me here on this next episode of Small Talk, Mr. Andrew. Andrew,
hello everyone.
You are the founder of a spirit that people can enjoy in these recreational situations,
right,
but they can avoid the negative consequences that come along with it.
That's exactly right.
Tell me your story, man. This is amazing.
Yeah, so the story of Cut Above is really my story. What I mean by that is the beginning of the pandemic, I was turning 40 years old, and I wanted to drink less in my life, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. Alcohol has been part of my life before it legally should have been part of my life, as I like to say, for better or for worse, but I wanted to cut back. And I didn't know it at the time, but on Instagram, on my feed the next day, it heard me talking, and I get all these ads for these non-alcoholic spirits. And I was like, amazing. I had no idea these things even existed. So I ordered them to my house, and I started to make cocktails with them. And none of them really delivered for me like the kind of cocktail that I was used to drinking and imbibing. And so I tried different ones and tried mixing them together, and none of them really delivered. At the same time, the personal part of it is my oldest, my son, at the dinner table, he would start to ask me about what I did, during the day for my job, like how long were my days, what did I spend time doing, could I show him stuff? And I began to notice that I was really unenthusiastic about my answers. And as kind of this weight of a father, you see kind of the look in your child's eyes, like I got to do better, right? I got to show him what it looks like to have a passion and a real drive for what I was spending 9-10 plus hours of my day doing, right? So both these things are happening to Andrew at the same point in time. And what really kind of lit the fuse was waking up one morning with a hangover, right? Definitely wasn't my first one, and it wasn't my last one since then. But I was just fed up and said there had to be a better way. That night before, we were celebrating a friend's milestone birthday. Didn't think I was going to see him for a couple of months. COVID made that 3 years. And to have stayed out, to have enjoyed the same cocktails at this, upstanding cocktail bar, really mixology forward, right? Kind of really awesome creations. To have ordered like we were used to doing, you get around, I get around. To have been in the mix, had a well-crafted drink in my hand, but be in control of the alcohol in it. And so that really led to a 2-year journey of pushing the boundaries on what we can do to create delicious, great tasting, functional, non-alcoholic spirits. And the 4 we have now are a result of that. And all of that was really important, right? The liquid inside the bottles. But what I say is even more important is the brand around it. The Cut Above brand is not anti-alcohol. What we are is we're big believers and proponents of choice when it comes to what people drink. And so for some, maybe that means I'm gonna abstain for the month of January and I'm gonna join a challenge. Maybe I'm on a medication. My doctor told me to do something. For whatever reason, whatever duration, we believe for the most part, we all know what's best for us in that moment. And so Cut Above is there for when that moment is a low or a no proof cocktail. And that's how Cut Above was born.
I like that, and it's such a leap of faith to get into a business that you really have no experience in. Can you talk about what that transition was like, especially for these small business owners or people, these professionals looking to make that transition?
Yeah, for sure. I had no business starting a spirit company, let alone a non-alcoholic spirit company. But what I had was a passion and an understanding of what it felt like to be different in rooms. And so for me, like most of that life, right? Latino background, Mexican American, and so growing up in the professional world, I was in banking. I definitely understood what it felt like to be different. And there's that same feeling of different if you are the only person maybe not drinking in a crowd. And so for a lot of times that looked like we all got these amazing cocktails, and someone's not drinking, and they have a Shirley Temple or this like really sugary thing, maybe with a little bit of carbonation. Everyone's out, got this nice garnish thing. And so for me, that mission of normalizing not drinking and saying, hey, just because you don't want the alcohol tonight doesn't mean you shouldn't have a good drink. And so as a business owner, as going into this industry I had no experience in, that was really the drive, which was how can I make people not have that feeling when it comes to being out and drinking, whether you're socializing for business or just on your own, kind of normalizing that choice to drink less.
I like it. True entrepreneurs, they find a problem, they hyperfixate on it, and ultimately that's what keeps you up at night, that's what wakes you up in the morning.
Yeah.
But then of course you're doing that while you're also developing the product, going through all this market research, the sampling and stuff like that. What is that like operationally, logistically, when it comes to building a beverage?
Yeah, so it's a bit like torturing yourself. One, because it's a new industry, right? None of these products exist. So what we did to develop Cut Above is we partnered with one of the prominent flavor houses in the U.S. and we partnered with a bartender that's been in the industry for 25 plus years, runs Diageo world-class competitions, because I wanted it to work at the bar and I wanted it to work at home. And so we would get these flavors, set our parameters, no alcohol, non-GMO, gluten-free where we can. And so we would just get these rounds and taste them. And we make cocktails with them. And then we'd compare them to traditional spirits. We'd compare them to other non-alcoholic spirits. And maybe the nose was right on one, but the taste was off, right? So go back and think of this kind of big wall with a bunch of levers. And there's one right combination that's for the product that we wanted, but there's hundreds of them. And so you never know what combination is going to work. And so you just go through these rounds after rounds after rounds. And then we would shake it on ice and let the cocktail sit. Did everything hold together? Did it become too watery? So that process was really arduous. I joke it's a bit like torture, but like torture kind of in a good way, because we got closer and closer and closer each time, to the point where when we had the final product that you see in the bottles in front of me, we knew it was better than anything that was out on the market. We knew it performed well, both for bartenders and at-home enthusiasts. And so that satisfaction, that's what you're chasing through those hard times as a business owner. And then it's a big feeling of, yay, we did it. And then it's like, all right, now we got to sell the stuff, right? And so then that's a whole different body of work, right, you have to take.
I mean, that's really my next transition right there too, because when it comes to the sales portion, as this is called small talk, and a lot of times people, especially after COVID, people started relying too much on the internet. That's the only way to do business. But really getting out there, having small talk, having hundreds of different conversations, and really getting a chance to give people that brand trust that they're willing to charge a product, regardless of what it is, just because they like you as a person. How has that process been? Implementing that trust in the city of Houston for people to go ahead, take on and try out this product?
Yeah, it's right. It's sip by sip, and like any good brand, right? You sell the individual. You're not selling everybody at the same time. And so to do that, I rely on our bar and restaurant partners, right, to do that, to introduce the product. How do I get them to bring on a non-alcoholic spirit? Some they understand and they're forward thinking, and they know this is not a temporary trend. This is here to stay. Drinking culture is shifting to a certain degree. Some I have to drag yelling, kicking, and screaming into the future, as I like to say. But in the end, I say any bar that doesn't have, and I don't like to use the word mocktail, so I'll say non-alcoholic cocktails. Any bar that doesn't have a non-alcoholic cocktail program really is you're late to the game. So those places that understand it, really it's let's put the product out, let's taste it, right? Taste it by itself. Talk what it is and what it isn't. One of the things we noticed early on was a lot of disservice had been done by some of the brands before us, where they came in and they said, here's a non-alcoholic whiskey, it's going to taste just like all the other whiskeys you have, let's try it. And it didn't, right? So people were like, well, what are you selling me here? And they kind of threw out the whole category. So when we come in, we say, listen, you're going to notice a difference between this, our non-alcoholic whiskey, and a Maker's and a I'll be like, because they're different products. And we understand you can't completely replace that alcohol burn that we have, but we add things in here in a natural way to replicate it. But what these things have to do is they have to do the job in a cocktail. The gin has to do the job of a gin in a cocktail, right? It has to bring juniper, it has to bring botanicals, it has to bring citrus. And so when it does that, and you kind of reframe the mind, okay, this is a standalone product, and just like we all have our favorite whiskeys or our favorite tequilas, people are going to have their own favorite non-alcoholic ones. And so our favorite profiles are meant to be widely used, right, in thousands of cocktails you can create, but they're the most common flavor profiles. So that allowed that adaptability to happen pretty fast. And then the second thing is when it came to presenting it to their customers, right? So that's really who I'm selling to. I'm just we're going through these bars and restaurants. It was, how do you present it on the menu? That's a real big thing we talk about a lot. And so for us, you may have a gin and tonic, just old fashioned or margarita, let's say a Paloma. So with Cut Above, what you can do now is just put an asterisk next to each of those and say now available, no or low alcohol. Maybe you change the price point, maybe you don't. So one of the things we paid attention to was making this a one-for-one replacement. So technique doesn't change, volume doesn't change, everything that the bartender can do with the traditional spirits, they do with us. And so those are the big things we talk about. Once I think the proprietors and bartenders and bar managers, bar leads, once they understand that, again, we're here to talk truth about the product. We're here because you have customers that are coming in, they're going to be looking for these things. Here's an easy way to implement them. That's where that trust in the relationship starts. And then because we're small, because we're nimble, because they're dealing with the founder of the company, we're allowed to continue that relationship. They have direct access to me. Hey, Andrew, we're doing an event, we're doing a pop-up. We need help with some new recipes. What do you have for us? And then we just continue that on. But that's that's true for any business, right? It starts with a step of honesty, right, and building that trust, and then you just nurture it over time.
And I want to back it up because I think now you're talking about middle sales funnel right now.
Yeah.
And now I want to talk about, like, you walk into a place, they don't know who you are.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They don't know you have a product yet. Obviously, you can't go in there pitching it, especially in a bar or restaurant. They don't, you're just another person. Or maybe you're out at a networking event. You know, you don't want to obviously, yo, you should try my product out.
Yeah.
You know, how are you making sure that you're, one, being in the right places at the right time, and two, you know what I'm saying, making that transition to get the opportunity for people to know about your product? Because there's a lot of people who have businesses and they don't know how to talk to people about what they have to offer.
Yeah, I think part of it, and it's true probably with any sales, right, top of funnel, is it's volume, right? So we go out and we visit as many places as we can, but we're smart about it. We know places, we can go look at menus online. As we began to network into this community, who are the beverage directors, what are the experience they have, what are the reputations they have, places they worked at before. So we begin to know places that we thought would be more ready to listen up front, that we thought we could maybe gain a little bit earlier. I've been a patron of many of the establishments we sell and we're at now, and so that always helps, right? So I've been on what I call the dry side of the bar, and so some of those relationships were already there, right? I knew the bartenders, we've known each other for a while. But having the volume, and then it's just risk taking. And I'll say that, so I'm a person who is naturally have introvert tendencies. Like having a social interaction, like being at a cocktail competition, being on there, like that drains my battery, man. My wife, who's my co-founder, like that fuels her battery. And so I'm just naturally, I like being social, I don't like being social, but it just takes a lot out of me. So part of it is saying, like, listen, like this, right, kill what you eat. So if I'm not out there, right, selling this product, talking about it, being passionate about it, answering all the questions, like no one else is going to do that. No one's going to tell the story better than I can. No one's going to do anything better than I can, because like this is of me, like this is what I brought into the world. And so I think it's believing in what you have, getting out there and just like starting it, and don't let how you thought you were or your personality or your tendencies like get in the way of it. Like, you know, you can make it. We're Hustle Town for a reason.
So it sounds like survival. It's your strongest motivator.
yeah, for sure.
Dad, I come home, my child looks at me, I'm like, you know what? I need to figure it out.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Our children now, they're our little brand ambassadors. They knew way too much cocktail terminology than they should for their age. Like my 5-year-old daughter knows what a Negroni is.
Well, you're in the industry now. When you get into the industry now, you just talk about it.
So now it's that flip. Like as you go kind of full circle back to the story. Like so now like they're involved in the business, and we talk about the ups, we talk about the downs. I never had that right growing up. I didn't come from an entrepreneurial family, and so to be able to kind of impart that, you know, to them and let them see and witness that, whether they become entrepreneurs or not, like, I mean, to me, I'm satisfied with that alone, right? And then everything else that we're doing and creating here, and all the things it allows people to do, and again, to feel comfortable not drinking, like that's, you know, just icing on top.
And honestly, as we go into this next small talk event, and as I noticed from the first one, great turnout, you know, but, you know, we could have used some definite intentional, what you call it, not mocktails, what was the word you used?
Non-alcoholic cocktails.
Yeah, some non-alcoholic cocktails on the menu. A lot of people are asking for it because at the end of the day, people, they need to go out, socialize, create connections, get new ideas.
Right.
And, you know, they don't want to wake up with a hangover. But at the same time, the bars are built to be those facilitators of those relationships. I mean, right now we're FAO, it's an arcade at the same time. You know, we got comfy seatings, it's built for conversations just like this.
Right.
But there's also just been a bigger shift in drinking culture. As we know, Gen Z is drinking less. Mm-hmm. You know, who knows, whether it be the economy, whether it be them just being online streaming, they found different activities to do. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the transition of the drinking culture?
Yeah, I think it's a transition. I always say, right, alcohol isn't going anywhere. It's been part of the human experience since the beginning, and it's going to continue to be there. What I think is happening is it's an industry that's going through a little bit of a reckoning that really hasn't really happened since Prohibition, right? And so what we say is, and one of the reasons we're not anti-alcohol is because like these are our socialization spots, right? FAO is a place, you know, we as humans, right, go to gather. We go to gather over a drink, but we gather there to have conversation, make new connections, rekindle old connections, whatever the case may be. So as big supporters of the bar industry, what we see is consumers, and it's across all ages, predominantly the younger generations drive it because they just have always paid attention to what they put in their body, right, food-wise. You have cannabis that's more readily available and acceptable.
I didn't want to say that, but yeah, that's one of my main thoughts.
So, you know, they'll get their feelings a different way, right? And so the bar and restaurants had to respond in a way that didn't look fake, didn't look like we're jumping on to like a trend, but those that do it right and do it in a meaningful way, which is, hey, we have this reputation for making really good drinks. We're going to keep making really good drinks. Now we're just going to make them no alcohol. Like that comes across as authentic, and so patrons will come in for that. But we see it people like middle age, and even people as they get into the older years, like it's about longevity, quality of life, spending time with their grandkids, all those sorts of things. And so we see it across all age groups, people choosing to drink no, and low. And that's why our message is always about choice. And I say that because I think it's really narrow to think about non-alcoholic spirits are just for people who aren't drinking. Because that just makes it a very small population, right, as a business to sell to. We say non-alcoholic is for everyone. And so we talk about that when we talk about a way to make a gin and tonic, right? I know we've talked about this before, where you can go into a bar and if they have cut above and you ask for your gin and tonic, they're going to make it just how they would make it. Andrew comes in off the street. If they have cut above, that patron can now ask for a cut gin and tonic. So they're going to split base it. They're going to use whatever gin they traditionally use. They're going to use half of it and they're going to bring cut above in for that other half. All the ingredients stay balanced. Or they can say, just make me a full non-alcoholic gin and tonic. They're just nothing going to use but cut above. And so that flexibility, kind of that create your own adventure. One, it's easy for the bartender to respond to give the consumer exactly what they want, and it's easy for the consumer to convey and make that choice throughout the night. And so consumers really dig that choice, and it allows them to kind of see, hey, I maybe didn't think a non-alcoholic whiskey wasn't for me because I'm a whiskey enthusiast. Once they try it, and even that cutway is a way to introduce it to them, they'll see right that next morning, hey, I didn't really miss that extra ounce, 3/4 ounce of my whiskey, but I still had my good drinks all night. And so then it's like, okay, they find a place for it and they kind of understand what we're trying to do.
And I like also here in Texas, you got to have a TABC license to sell alcohol, but you having this product, they don't have to do that. But I think that also helps you get creative in how you market and provide sampling and stuff like that. What are some of the most creative ways you've been helping to get this product tasted by the community? Yeah,
so we do a lot of events. Sometimes those are through like corporations, like company parties. We have sponsored Warner Music Group Nashville, their Country Music Awards before. So we get in places that have a lot of bigger celebrities and have them try the product as well. We go to some of our smaller retailers and just do in-store tastings. It's a lot of that. There's not a lot of reinventing the wheel when it comes to introducing a product. It really is, find places where you can get liquid to lips, and that's where we like to be. Well, small talk. Another episode in the books, but you'll be here providing sampling as well as networking yourself, because at the end of the day, these are professionals, and love it. Who knows, they could have services that you need as well. Never know. And what are the best places for somebody to get Cut Above right now? Yeah, so Cut Above right now in the great state of Texas. You can find us at all Specs locations. You can find us at drinkcutabove.com. If you really want to, we're on Amazon as well. So you can find us really easy, whether you want to go buy it in person or you want to grab it online. You don't sound like you like the Amazon option. I just love supporting. Texas is Specs, right? So you got to be in Specs. That's why I like God, Specs has them hostage. All right, we're out of here, man. You guys have a good one.